That's strange. I was shooting on a tripod at base ISO, and yet there's still some noise in the shadows. I wonder if I can get better image quality. The answer to that problem of having a little bit of noise in the shadows sometimes is average high dynamic range. It's usually good for scenes with a lot of dynamic range where you're using a tripod and you're at base ISO. And it's also mainly for subjects that are relatively still. So I'm talking landscape photography, macro photography. This technique, it's not going to work very well for wildlife photography most of the time because wildlife photography doesn't have a lot of dynamic range often, not always, but often, and your subject is usually not sitting very still. So wildlife photography and people photography is not really what this is good for. It's good for landscapes, macro, situations where you can use your tripod because you're going to have to take many exposures to get this to work. And that's what AHDR is. Average high dynamic range is the technique of taking multiple exposures and combining them in post-production. Now, it's called average high dynamic range photography because it takes frames that all have the same exposure. So it's not really the same as exposure bracketing, where you take an underexposed shot, a normally exposed shot, and an overexposed shot and combine them in post. It combines shots of the same exposure. And it actually achieves much of the same results as exposure bracketing because it still averages out the noise in the shadows to get rid of the noisy look in the shadows. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how to do AHDR photography. I'm going to go step by step, how to do it with only open source software, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to make the most out of this technique. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and let's get going. Like I said, the basic idea of AHDR is to take multiple shots with the same exposure and settings of the same subject and combine them into a single photo by averaging them. This will reduce the noise in the shadows. Here is the step-by-step procedure on how to do it. Step 1. Get the software. First, let's get the software you'll need. If you're on Windows or Mac, go to hugin.sourceforge.io, linked in the video description. Hugin is a panorama stitcher, but it comes with two tools that are useful for exposure blending, Enfuse and Align Image Stack. Download the software and install it. If you're on Linux, you can usually just install Enfuse through your package manager. Step 2. Create the bin directory. If you don't have a bin directory in your home directory, create a new folder called bin. Then open a terminal and type sudo nano etc paths and enter your password. Add the full path to the new bin folder at the end of this file. Make sure to use the correct username. Step 3. Make the script. Create a new empty text file called AHDR in your bin directory and add the following lines to it if you're on macOS. These lines invoke the enfuse command to blend your images. I put these lines in the video description so you can copy and paste. Note, for Linux, if you've installed Enfuse in Align Image Stack directly, you don't need to specify the full path of Enfuse or Align Image Stack, and you can use the following simplified version instead. Also, if you want to work with TIFF files instead of JPEG files, just replace JPEG with TIFF in the file. One other tip. If you know your image files will be perfectly aligned, you can comment out this first line that aligns them, which will save you time. Step 4. Make your script executable. In a terminal, navigate to the bin directory and type chmod +x AHDR. This will make your script accessible from anywhere. Step 5. Get the photos. You're going to need to take a number of photos of the same subject with exactly the same settings. You'll need to take 2 photos to improve your noise by 1 stop, 4 photos to improve it by 2 stops, and 2 to the power of n photos to improve the noise by n stops. Generally, I recommend taking 4 to 16 photos depending on how much noise you expect in the shadows. 8 photos will already give you 3 stops, which is already pretty good. So let's go to the field to get some photos. I'm here in the field with my tripod, and I've got my camera, and I found something I want to take a picture of. It's a tree. And behind the tree is the sun. And the sun is shining straight down through the trees. So you can see the sun in the background. And I want to take a picture of this tree with the background out of focus. And even though there's still a fair amount of light on the tree, because I don't want to overexpose the background too much, I want lots of rich colors in the background. The tree, I'm expecting that this tree, which is going to be in focus, is going to be fairly underexposed. So because it's going to be underexposed, I'm going to lift the shadows a little bit in post because I want some of that texture on the tree. And what's going to happen there is that there's going to be some noise in the tree. So this is a perfect case for average high dynamic range photography, because I'm going to take, if I just take one shot on this tripod, I can go to base ISO. Well, probably I could go to base ISO even without a tripod, but especially because I have a tripod, I can go on base ISO and I can take the exact same framing every time. And I don't have to just take one shot. I'm going to take 4, 8, maybe even 16 shots. So I'm going to take those shots on this, and it helps to have this, I had it somewhere, cable release. It helps to have this cable release because then I don't have to touch the camera at all. But to be honest, I think I wouldn't really need this. I could use the self timer or even just press the shutter button. If there's a slight amount of movement, I can align the images in post, but it's even better to use something like this so you don't have to even do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these pictures of this tree trunk, and we're going to see how that improves the image quality in the shadows compared to just taking one image. So let me take these pictures. Better attach the cable release. And I'll see you back in the studio. Step 6. Now that we're back in the studio, edit one of the many almost identical photos you took to your liking. Don't bother removing noise when you edit. The AHDR process will do that for you. If you're using Darktable, once you're done editing one photo, simply use the copy and paste history stack function in the light table mode. After editing the photo to your liking, copy and paste the edit to all of the photos in the sequence and export them to a new folder. Step 7. Open a terminal and navigate to the new folder and run the AHDR script there and wait. It should take a couple of minutes at most. That's it. You should now have a new file in the same directory as your exported images called result.jpg or result.tiff if you decided to work with TIFF files. Let's take a look at it. So we're finally back after that long process. Now, I'm sorry that was a little bit long. The reason why it was so long is because we had to do all that stuff at the beginning of getting the software, creating a script for it, creating a bin directory, and all that other stuff. But if you already have all that stuff done, then this procedure should be a piece of cake, because all you have to do basically is take your images in the field and then export them to a folder and then run that script, and that's it. So after you get this initial setup done like I described in this video, it's going to be really easy to do this process after this. So let's just take a quick look at the screen and see what we got. Okay, right now I have 2 of the images on my screen. I've got one of the images exported from Darktable, and I've got the merged photo with the program, the script that we just run. Now let's zoom in here. 4, 5. Let's zoom in. Look at all this noise we got here. If we zoom into this trunk, let's try and zoom into the same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, pretty much all the noise here is eradicated. We got, let's see if I can find it. See, this is pretty much the exact spot right here. Okay, so these 2 are the exact spots. And you can see that the noise here is extreme on the left-hand side, and the noise on the right-hand side is good. It's pretty much all eliminated, so you get a much more image quality, more detail. See, in this spot here, you can see a lot more detail in the denoised version right here. Whereas here, the detail is kind of obliterated. You recover some detail in the shadows. And let's go to that nice knot on the tree. See, this is the knot on the tree. Again, you got a lot of obliterated detail on the left here, and on the right, the detail is kind of returned. It looks a lot better. So that's mainly this procedure. This procedure allows you to get rid of noise in shadows without using noise reduction, because noise reduction can eliminate detail. It doesn't bring detail back. It removes the appearance of noise, but it doesn't bring detail back. So what we got here is a procedure to remove noise in the shadows and get detail back by improving your noise performance, your detail retention in the shadows for high dynamic range scenes. That's pretty much it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video on average high dynamic range photography. I hope you learned a little bit about how to do it with just open source tools. I know there are probably commercial tools out there that can do it, but this is just with open source tools. They do a great job, and I hope you can use this sometime to improve some of your photography where you are struggling with noise in the shadows. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.